Can you all see the entire PowerPoint slide? Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. Evening.
So I'm going to call the meeting to order, and I'm going to forego the calling of the roll because we're going to do that in the very next agenda item to proceed through the COVID pandemic special motion. Just a little side note, you may note that I appear to be looking off and above the screen. That's because I've got a larger screen above. It's not that I'm trying to ignore you. Okay. To conduct this meeting wholly electronically and to effectuate both the emergency procedures authorized by FOIA, the Wetlands Board needs to make certain findings and determinations for the record. It's a bit cumbersome, so I ask in advance for your patience. First, because each member of this Wetlands Board is participating in this meeting from a separate location, we must verify that a quorum of members is participating and that each member's voice is clear, audible, and at the appropriate volume for all the other members. Accordingly, I'm going to conduct a roll call and ask each Wetlands member participating in the meeting to state your name and the location from which you are participating. I ask you each to pay close attention to ensure that you can hear each of your colleagues. Following the roll, we will establish that every member can hear every other member. And to state the obvious, for us to hear you, you must unmute. So first, Anita Van Breda.
Hello, Anita Van Breda from Alexandria.
Dean Costello.
Dean Costello, Springfield.
Bert Kramer.
Bert Kramer, Mountain Vernon District.
Deanna Crumbling.
Dina Crumbling
Very good.
From residence in Alexandria.
Douglas Klein. Is Doug Klein with us this evening? I think we should note him as not present. And Kimberly Larkin.
Kimberly Larkin from my home in Alexandria.
And this is Clyde Wilbur participating from Springfield. At this point, I will pass the virtual gavel to the Vice Chair, Anita Van Breda, so that we may be heard to make the requisite motion. Anita, would you take the chair, please?
Yes, thank you.
I move that each member's voice is adequately heard by every other member of the Wetlands Board. Do I hear a second?
I second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes, verifying audibility of members' voices. As determined by the roll call, we have 6 members. Did I get that right? Of the Wetlands Board are present. Did I count that right, Kimberly? And therefore satisfy the Wetland Board quorum minimum of 4 members. It is so moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? So moved. Third, having established that each member's voice may be heard by every other member, we must establish the nature of the emergency that compels these emergency procedures, the fact that we are meeting electronically, what type of electronic communication is being used, and how we have arranged for public access to the meeting. Therefore, I move that the state of emergency caused by COVID-19 pandemic makes it unsafe for this Wetlands Board to be physically assembled and unsafe for the public to physically attend any such meeting. And that as such, FOIA's usual procedures, which require the physical assembly of the Wetlands Board and the physical presence of the public, cannot be implemented safely or practically. I further move that the Wetlands Board may conduct this meeting electronically through WebEx, a county virtual meeting platform, and available for access through the ARB, through the Wetlands Board website. It is so moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Finally, it is next required that all matters addressed on today's agenda are statutorily required or necessary to continue operations and the discharge of the board's lawful purpose, duties, and responsibilities. It is so moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion passes. Madam Vice Chairman, if you please, I will accept the back the gavel.
Thank you.
We now move to the first agenda item. This is the show cause hearing for violation at 10625 Green Drive, Lorton, Massey Creek. The hearing is declared open. This is a show cause hearing for a reported violation on Green Drive. We have present the Wetlands Board staff in Kimberly Herman. Kimberly, if you just raise your hand. Kimberly, just raise your hand.
It's Katie Herman. Thank you.
Yes. Also, we have present Mark Eversole from VMRC. And I believe we have present the owner, Justin Sand. Is that correct? Mr. Sand, are you present?
I am present.
Very good. Is anyone else present that I did not name?
Livia Pashoni Sand, his wife, is here as well.
Very good. And what is your name?
Livia.
Thank you. Very good.
And Clyde, Pam Pelto, County Attorney's Office is here.
Very good. Thank you. Anyone else?
Doug Klein.
Oh, very good. Thank you, Doug. Okay. First, I'd like to ask if any board members have any disclosures or need for recusal. Hearing none, the chair wishes to state the Wetlands Board mission and purpose. Our purpose is to protect the public interest, promote public health, safety, economic, and general welfare of the Commonwealth, to protect public and private property, wildlife, marine fisheries, and the national environment. It is declared to be public policy of the Commonwealth to preserve wetlands and to accommodate necessary economic development in a manner consistent with wetlands preservation. I'd like to point out that this is a show cause hearing, not a permit review. The board does not have a complete permit application at this time. This is a show cause hearing, fact-finding hearing to determine if a violation has occurred and to decide the following. The first issue before us will be to conclude whether or not there is a violation present. If there is no violation present and the board so decides, no further action would be necessary. If the board concludes that there is a violation present, the board has two options and we must select one of these two. Proceed to a restoration hearing, restoration order to require the permittee to return the wetlands to pre-development conditions. Or separately, the board may find and require a permit application and subsequent public hearing. Let me mention just briefly the public hearing process. We will first hear a staff report, and if VMRC wishes to add to that report, they may. Then the board may question the staff. This will be followed by the applicant's show cause, where the applicant can present any testimony they so desire, and then be subject to questions by the board. Typically, we would also ask for written or other supporting or opposition statements but since we have no outside participants, we will forego that.
Sir, I apologize for the interruption, but our construction agent, Shoreline Construction, is supposed to be on the line. I don't think that they're being heard right now, and I just want to make sure because they'll be integral to this hearing as they've been doing the work for us.
Okay. Yeah, what I
Here-
can do, Clyde, hold on one second. Yeah, what I can do is make Robin a panelist, and therefore she'll be able to mute and unmute herself. So I will do that here.
All right,
And I apologize
suggest,
again.
if I may, I'm going to suggest that we take a pause while your contractor can join.
Yes, right now I think she's in the panelist role, so she should be able to mute and unmute herself. Robin,
Hey, can you guys
okay.
hear me? I think I got it.
yes,
All right.
yes, we can hear you.
Would you
Thank
please-
you so much.
Would you please state your name for the record?
Robin McCormack?
And Ms. McCormick, were you present for the introduction to the hearing?
Yes.
Very good. We will continue then. Moving on, then the Wetlands Board will discuss and consider a decision, and the hearing will be closed. So I'd like to move next to the staff report. Catherine Herman, would you proceed, please?
Sure. Before I get started, I just wanted to mention, since I believe Kim Larkin is calling in via her cell phone, Kim, if you have access to the chat, ping me there if you need anything. I think I see you on there, but I'm not sure how to. I'll unmute you.
I have no internet right. Okay, thank you. There's no internet, so the best I can do is by phone. And I did look at your presentation this afternoon, so
Okay.
I'm familiar.
When there's discussion, Kim, maybe what I'll do is just manually unmute you, just so that if you need to chime in, you can. But then when I'm talking or something, or we're hearing more lengthy points, I will go ahead and mute you if that's okay.
No, that's great. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so let me move forward with the chairman's request. So just to summarize a little bit of the history, on the evening June 15th, myself, BMRC, and the Fairfax County Land Development Services Department received a complaint about ongoing work being done at this property address. BMRC and the county determined that no permits were submitted for any of this proposed work. This first image here is from 2020, so Fairfax County oblique imagery at the property to just give us a baseline. So this is about the status of the shoreline approximately a year ago. And then after the complaint was filed, a county code inspector visited the property the next day, which was June 16th, and he collected 3 photos from the property owner from a flooding event that I believe was discussed as an event that happened in early 2021. I do not have any additional details at this time about the dates in which these photos were taken or what the conditions were. But again, this was collected by our compliance inspector. These next 5 photos I'm showing were taken from our county code compliance inspector, also on June 16th. One is with the overall scope of the project. The next is showing some new pilings that appear to be installed. Next, you'll notice the depth of the water behind the new bulkhead. And next is just a general scope of the property, the slope and scope of the property away from the shoreline. And next is another view of the ongoing work. Due to the property owner being away on vacation, VMRC, VIMS, which is the Virginia Institute of Marine Sciences, myself and other board members were not able to gain access to the property on June 17th when we all happened to kind of be out doing other site visits. So we observed the site from across Massey Creek from the neighborhood marina. These two images are photos I took from the marina. The image on the left shows a northernmost corner of the subject property with a more natural shoreline at the neighbor's property edge or property boundary, which obviously is adjacent to the bulkhead. And the photo on the right shows the work in progress. Through researching the recent history of wetlands on Massey Creek, a related photo from a nearby joint permit application for the Harborview Recreation Club, which is that neighborhood marina across Massey Creek, was discovered. This photo was taken by VMRC staff on June 29th, 2020, so last summer in 2020. And was included in a public report created by VMRC to help document the conditions of Massey Creek. This report is also available online publicly at the VMRC website and since has been part of the JPA package that was approved for the Recreation Club. This photo shows the subject property with water breaching the bulkhead. And again, this would have occurred a little bit more than a year ago to the old bulkhead that was there. During VMRC's site visit to this property in early July, Mark took a photo image of the vegetation on site and sent it to VIMS to have their technical staff determine the species of this plant. And the statement that was provided by one of the VIMS leadership members is there on the slide, indicating that this is a Smartweed wetland plant. So therefore, there are portions of vegetated wetlands on this site. And then I just have one or two images here. This is just contextual because I was doing some research. I just wanted to provide this as a point of reference. There's an image here from 1990 imagery that was collected by the county, so back more than 30 years ago, that shows the bulkhead that I believe obviously had some breaches and some issues. The county also has imagery that goes back to 1980, and the bulkhead is not present on the property. So the exact date, of the installation of the old bulkhead is unknown, just to give us a frame of reference. And just to quickly review the documentation that's been recorded to date, I created a sworn complaint on June 21st, a few days after we learned of this issue. And then the Wetlands Board Chairman issued a stop work order on the same day for impacts to tidal wetlands without a permit. That correspondence was sent to the property owner and to the contractor or agent on June 21st as well, and posted to the property owner's residence. The County Code Compliance Inspector for the Department of Land Development Services also posted a notice of violation for work being done without a permit in the RPA or the Resource Protection Area. And then on June 9th, a notice to comply letter was sent to the property owner, alerting them to this meeting and asking for their participation. And see here. So the latest is that the property owner, the applicant, has submitted a joint application permit to VMRC that was submitted on August 2nd, so last Monday. I have not completed a review of the application yet, but I've looked at it, still formulating some thoughts and comments. But I do know that comments will be developed and sent to the applicant and the agent of items to update on their application. So that's a review of kind of the history and where we are from here. At this point, Clyde, I can, Chairman, if you would like me to, I can share my thoughts about next steps, or we can open it up for thoughts.
So, yeah, Catherine, I'd like to turn to the board and ask, does anyone have any questions of Catherine?
Yes, this is Anita. I have a question, please.
Sure.
Catherine, did you receive, sorry, I can't get the video back on now. Have you received any other commentary or written correspondence from anyone else on this situation?
I've mostly been in coordination with just like the other compliance county inspector to just trade notes on what he saw because he was able to gain access. And obviously I've been in coordination with VMRC. I have not received complaints from any additional citizens, if that's what you're asking.
Okay. Yep,
Okay.
that's fine. Thank you.
Can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, I'm Robin's assistant, and I just wanted to ask a question. From your pictures and so forth, the existing or old bulkhead has been there for 20 or 30 years?
Yes, I believe so. Mhm.
All right. That's the only question I have at this time.
Thank you.
Clyde, are you muted? I can't hear Clyde.
I'm sorry. Mr. McCormick, who are you and who do you represent?
I work for Robin.
Can anyone hear him? Did he disappear? Yeah, you're, in any case, Mr. McCormick, I think you're out of order. So if I may, I'd like to turn to Mark Eversole, the representative from VMRC. Mr. Eversole, do you have any comments to add?
No, sir, not at this time. We have received the JPA, and I believe it is incomplete at this point. We will be following up with Ms. McCormick to flesh out that permit application, so to speak. Once the wetland board has done what they're going to do, then VMRC will pick up the application and continue with a hearing in Hampton.
Very good. Thank you. Conclusion of the hearing. I move now to ask for a statement from the applicant or your agent. You have the floor. Mr. Sand.
Thank you, sir. I think Robin's going to talk at the
First.
I think Robin's having phone problems, so I will talk for her if you guys can hear me.
Who are you?
I'm Robin's assistant,
What is your name?
Bobby Duke.
Catherine, were you able to record that?
Yes.
Okay. And what is your role in the project, Mr. B?
I don't really have a role. I'm Robin's assistant. Just asking questions of you.
So this is the presentation portion of the hearing. This is the opportunity for the applicant or its representative to make their case as to whether this is a violation or not. Do you have anything that you wish to add to that?
Sure.
Please proceed.
All right, hold on. I'm pulling up my information. It's the position of shoreline service and design that under section 116-1-3, that this construction and maintenance of non-commercial catwalks, piers, boathouses, boat shells, fences, duck blinds, wildlife management, and other are allowed. It's also our position that that this project is not in the wetlands, as the mean high and mean low water goes in front and behind the bulkhead, which is shown in the JPA drawings, the sample drawings. There's also evidence that there was a bulkhead in the exact location, in the exact alignment for 20 to 30 years prior to this, and that the dredging that took place over the past year helped this bulkhead to start to fail and needed to be replaced. And by replacing, we save all the, we're helping out the channel to not need to be dredged again and not sealed in.
Does the applicant or his agent have any further statements they wish to make?
So
Not at this time.
And sir, from the homeowner's perspective, we'll just note that, we had no intention of doing anything other than replacing our bulkhead. After the dredging, it was significantly deteriorating. And so we wanted to make sure to get that done. And, Robin has been representing us during this process to do so. And, we had a bulkhead. We were just simply trying to replace our bulkhead. And so we had no intention of doing anything other than that. That's all.
We paid for, everything to be done the right way and the permitting and everything, and we were just trying to make it safe. It got unsafe. The electrical was live, which could have killed everybody down there. As a police officer, I'm going to make sure that that liability doesn't fall on myself. So we stopped the power once the boathouse was completely unstable. We had to pull our boat out, and the wall and all tiebacks ended up breaking. They were extremely old. The left side of the wall was deteriorated really bad with the storms, and the water that we showed the damage had actually eroded all the land down there. It was complete mud. It had not been disturbed by any of the equipment that Shoreline has brought in, other than the path that I've had used because I had knee surgery, which I have a little like a side-by-side gator thing to go up and down the property for my leg. There was no other path. There was no other way to get in without disturbing any more. But there was no disturbance as far as the land was already deteriorated to water and mud and was washing away. If we hadn't stopped it, the tree would have fallen. We had an arborist come in. We had our insurance company come in, and then we had to take out a home loan just to try to pay for this. So because we don't have the money to pay for something like this normally, and we weren't planning on paying for something like this. So we had to take out a loan just to try to do this and do this the right way and get the permits and
We have 2 young kids. We're just looking to resolve this and get our property restored back to the way it was. It's dangerous down there. My kids want to fish. We're just looking to resolve this, get our bulkhead back to the way that it was. And, you saw that tiny little plant. You guys are wetlands. You're familiar with how quickly plants grow. There wasn't any vegetation. It was lawn, just like every single other house on this property. They're all the same. So we're not doing anything that's not otherwise done by the neighborhood. We're just replacing our existing wall. So thank you for the opportunity to.
Some of the actual pilings are still in. They weren't able to actually remove some of them, so they're in the exact same spot they were.
It's the same footprint.
The same exact footprint that it was.
So barring your questions, that's all we have.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions from the board members or the applicant? So, Catherine, could you return to your presentation? I would like to put up the photo showing the north side of the property line with the, even previous to, keep going back, shows the piles in place. Keep going. One more. I'm sorry. Here, stop. I'd like to ask, can you tell us when the photo on the right was taken?
Yes, I can tell you, I have it in my phone from when that was taken.
I believe this is post dredging because it wasn't that.
Our channel was just dredged and then the rest of the post, and there was some wood still underneath there, and that ended up washing in. We had to retrieve boards, shoreline helped retrieve boards. There was still a wall being there. We had to replace the entire thing, repair it because it was, obviously, as you see, there's a log going through it and,
Yeah, I don't remember
everything
the
else had
exact
fallen.
date. If that looks as if.
I have
it's
it right
earlier.
here.
Right. And of course, the tidal range runs through the slope that we're looking at on the right-hand side there, correct? Mean high water is almost.
Correct.
Yeah, it goes way up. I mean, I've seen my little daughter and her puppy, it goes all the way up to the top of the bulkhead, all the way down. Spring is, different. It just depends on the time, but yeah. Sorry.
Understood. So at the time of this photo, the bulkhead was gone. In that.
No, so that tiny little section, you still have the bulkhead. The entire bulkhead was still there. It's just that section of it. There may be boards. Well, there are boards underneath the mud because I know that they've pulled them out. But it's just that little section that didn't have the top boards there. You'll see all those other boards are kind of down into the mud.
Due to the dredging, it caused it to severely go. It got super deep, and as you can see on my neighbor's property, she's actually completely eroded now. She has no riprap or wall. They actually lost their wall years ago, and they have not tried to, because it's very expensive to place a new one. Their property, due to the dredging, now we have a deeper channel, is completely eroded even further back now. And this was caused due to erosion, but we still had our wall, we still had our tree and our boathouse. It just got to the point where it was completely unsafe for anybody, and we needed to repair it to make this safer for our kids, because we go down here and fish and we love it. So,
Catherine, could you move to the next slide? Next. Yeah, actually, yes. Back up one, I'm sorry. So observing the right-hand side there, to the right of the tree, I believe that the tidal range is also moving back and forth landward of the bulkhead as it was placed. Is that correct?
Sir, I'm sorry. I'm not sure what you mean by that if you're asking us.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there water behind the bulkhead?
So, yes, there's water on both sides of the bulkhead. Where the bulkhead goes in, there's water on both sides. I mean, I can take my phone and show you right now. There's water on both sides.
That's okay.
There's a lot of weeds right now. The wood is
Very good.
Yep.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Clyde, I've got one. This is Kim.
Please proceed.
I just had a question. Do you know what year the dredging was conducted? I'm just curious, like how long it's been.
Earlier this year, ma'am.
It was actually completed January and February. And then in March, I had reached out to see about, because of watching my wall and how shallow it got on my wall, and the mud was actually bending the wall. And so we had to do something, and we realized all the tiebacks had broken at that point, and we were about to lose that about 45-foot tree down there. And then that would have blocked the entire channel. So we had an arborist come out, our insurance company, which said they wouldn't cover it. So we took a home loan, and we got Shoreline to come out and, fix this problem, so it didn't become a huge problem in the water in our wetlands and our marina here.
And then that tree, we're still waiting for that. We've been, of course, complying with the stop work order. So we need to backfill it because I don't like the fact that it's not stable, down there. So we're really hoping to proceed as soon as possible. And I'll just note earlier, there was a question about complaints. We fully informed our marina of what was going on so that they would know. We wanted to make sure that we weren't, blocking the channel. Everyone has been really supportive. Of course, it's beneficial to our entire marina community if we have our bulkhead done so that we don't destroy all of the work and the dredging. So, you know, our neighborhood is behind us. This isn't anything we're doing to contrary to anyone in our neighborhood. And like I said, our marina's good, so.
We have a small board and our president and vice president, I believe Mark knows, Ty Harrington. We had addressed them earlier, letting the dredging company Delta, who was in here dredging, let them know and try to get all our stuff put in as fast as we could before, you know, the wall was going to go. I actually am serving on the board as well now, trying to, you know, make sure, but our neighborhood everything seems good and happy that we've made it look better in our neighborhood and saving more dirt and mud going into this channel that we just had dredged.
Any other questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
I have a quick question for you, and this might be for your contractor instead. After the stop work order was issued, what kind of stabilization measures were put in place?
I can't.
Well, I can answer that for you. I believe Catherine, or I don't know if she goes by Kate, Katie, and one other individual, I can't remember his name offhand right now, but he gave us a list and every single one of those measures was put in the next day, including a silt fence, the correct mesh and seed, straw. The entire property was put back completely. And it's always been flat like that down there. It's completely, there's no been dirt added, nothing's been added. It's completely the way it was before anybody came here. It's actually still muddy and gross. We need, you know, and we're still trying to, you know, finish this project. That's why we're hoping that, you know, us being here today to talk to you. But every measure we put in, we absolutely, and it's, you know, the hill completely is back to grass. Everything's back to, you know, what it looked like, but it's still, you know, mud down there because we need to stabilize it a little bit better.
Didn't the guy get back to us and say, you know, thank you, everything's
Yes.
done? And so we received confirmation that we complied with everything that needed to be done.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any other questions from board members? Okay, hearing no more questions, I'm going to kind of close the public aspect of this, and I'd like to move to board discussion. Would anyone like to discuss first the presence or absence of a violation? So I'll go ahead.
Yeah, Claudia.
Yes.
So I'm just trying to make sure what the board action is. We are trying to determine whether a violation has occurred.
Yes.
Is that our edict? Okay.
Yes, that's the first question before, and keep in mind that staff did conclude a violation was incurred, issued, you know, a stop work order. We are here to first confirm that. And I will speak myself for this, having visited the site. We have a condition where the bulkhead was no longer in place. And we have jurisdictional wetlands that were exposed by the loss of the bulkhead on the south side. We also have jurisdictional wetlands that are behind, on the north, make that straight. The north side, the bulkhead is missing, and there are jurisdictional wetlands exposed. And on the south side, it's unclear how much of the bulkhead was lost, but there are jurisdictional wetlands interior to the new bulkhead. So it's my observation that there are jurisdictional wetlands here. Further, we have VIMS telling us that there are statutory wetlands plants extending the area of the wetlands to 1.5 times the wetlands range. So we not only have a wetland, we have a vegetated wetland. It's not entirely clear to me the extent of that wetlands. It hasn't been measured, but clearly there is a wetlands here to me. And I personally conclude that we have a violation in place. We're having, proceeded with construction without a permit in a vegetated wetlands.
And this is Kim, I believe.
Kim.
I'm sorry, can't cut out.
Sorry, I'm just saying I would concur with that finding as well, Clyde. I believe there are jurisdictional wetlands and the action did occur in something under the board's jurisdiction.
So would you like to make a motion, Kim, that a violation has occurred?
I will make a motion that a violation, I forget the address, on Green Drive has occurred.
Do we have a second?
And
Sir, I apologize if we're out of order. I'm
You
not sure.
are. I'm sorry. The public hearing is over. Do I have, is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor of declaring a violation in place, please say, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? The motion passes. The board has concluded a violation is in place. The next question before us is whether or not to move to restoration order to pre-existing conditions or order a regular permit application for which there would be hearing thereafter. So before moving into this, I'd like to discuss that a little bit. Would anyone like to discuss the need to potentially go to a restoration to pre-existing conditions?
Hi, this is Anita. I have just a comment on that issue, if I may.
Yes, of course.
It seems to me that based on my understanding of the legislation and the policy, restoration to pre-existing or pre-development conditions is one potential action. And if I understand, we're looking at two options, that as one, or as you stated, as an alternative, moving forward with the JPA process that has already begun. I just wanted to clarify that from our board's perspective, that is the two potential pathways that we see here. And I'm just curious if any of the other board members see other pathways or have thoughts on either one of those. I just wanted to confirm that before we move forward. Thank you.
Would anyone like further discussion of that issue? So if I could discuss this briefly, pre-existing conditions, pre-development conditions is would be long before the original bulkhead was put in place. And if we made that order, we would have to deal with a variety of other issues that have occurred here. Looking at this photograph, you can see there's a marina directly across from the bulkhead as it has been placed. Of course, we have a dredged channel. And first time tonight I heard we actually might have some documentation of what the pre-development condition might be. However, that said, I think that from an environmental point of view, and particularly with the new law passed in 2020 and the new VMRC guidance that really causes us to lean towards a living shoreline, I think following the 2021 VMRC guidance in a permit application would be a reasonable path to follow here. That's my own personal opinion. But I am open to a motion to call for a restoration hearing if anyone so desires. Hearing, I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
I was about to say, I don't think that there's much to be gained by going that route at this point.
I agree. I think that we could do that, but
Right.
I'm not sure it would be productive any more than asking for a permit, regular permit.
Correct. My thinking.
Things might have been different prior to the new law, but with the law as it is in place now, I think we would get to something quite reasonable with that. I do have a draft motion to address this issue. If the board is all right, I would like to share a screen and show that. Catherine, can you give up the control and let me share the motion?
Yes, 1 second here. 1 second. Okay, it should be sending something to you here momentarily. I think I've stopped sharing. So
That show up on everyone's?
yes.
So if I'm,
Yes.
this is my motion. In the matter of the show cause hearing for the violation at 625 Green Drive, Lorden, Massey Creek, based on oral and written testimony presented at this show cause hearing, I move that the Fairfax Wetlands Board concludes that a violation has occurred, orders the existing stop work to continue until a complete permit application is approved, and any future work must be conducted in accordance with an approved permit. In lieu of a restoration order, the permittee is hereby required to provide a complete permit application fully addressing the 2021 BMRC wetlands guidance within 120 days. Do I have a second?
Second.
So now open to discussion. Would anyone like to discuss this or offer changes?
Does maintenance of the area during the course of the continued stop work also include the maintaining the stabilized site at this point?
So if the applicant attempts to stabilize the shoreline, they may further destroy wetlands. And part of the problem here is that the jurisdictional wetlands now extend to 1.5 times the wetlands range. And right now, I don't know what that range is. So I'm not sure that the board, I'm not sure how to address stabilization at this point without further harming the wetlands. I'm open to any suggestions about that. Kim, you have expertise in this area. Do you think anything should be done with that? I'm having trouble hearing from Kim.
I was just thinking in terms. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just thinking in terms of just making sure, a routine inspection of the silt fence to make sure that's still in place. Just something to reduce any kind of stormwater runoff into the creek. That's all.
I think that particular LDS services will probably that issue. Do you agree, Catherine?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
And I can,
go ahead.
I was going to say, I could certainly work with LDS to come up with a solution, whether it's myself or someone from that department to go out and periodically confirm. And I think I accidentally had Kim muted. Kim, if you're unmuted and if you have anything to add about Dean's question of the maintenance of some of the soil erosion measures that may help the property owner protect what they do have behind the bulkhead. If you have anything to add, I think you're unmuted now, so.
Yeah, I mean, for now, it would be better to let the vegetation grow. The longer the vegetation, taller the vegetation, the longer the roots are that hold the soil back there. So, you know, to me, the silt fence and the stabilization that we have is the best you can do. Just don't mow it.
Okay.
For now.
I'd like to ask if you can get any opinion from VMRC. Mark, you have a comment?
Actually, Mark is having computer problems. He sent me a message
All right.
on the side, and hopefully he'll be back on there, on here at some point, but I can make sure I loop back with him on that.
So, you know, I just discussing this with the board here, a mitigating approach would be to go ahead and plant, you know, wetlands plants. We could add a statement saying nothing in this stop order will prevent the applicant from approved wetlands vegetation in the tidal range. Do you think that would help? Let me type that and let people see it. Does that assist with your comment?
Good.
Any discussion of this change? I don't want to just do it without hearing from everyone.
Clyde, I think it's reasonable.
Okay. So the other issue here that I'd like to make sure we discuss is the 120 days. Catherine, do you think this is a reasonable amount of time to get through this permitting process? You know, you're not going to be able to plant anything until spring anyway. So, you know, if you want to make that 180, I don't have a problem with it. I'd just like to discuss some kind of a deadline, I think.
Yeah, sure. I think 120 might be a little close still, and that's also because, you know, I need to work with not only VMRC, but also VIMS and DCR, the Shoreline Erosion Advisory Service, to help.
Could I hear a suggestion from one of the board members?
It's Kim. I would move to change the 120 days to 180.
Any discussion of?
You think that'll be enough time, Katie?
I'm hopeful. It's just, like I said, it's just unknown knowing how much coordination needs to happen, and then, you know, ensuring that the applicant is understanding of what's being recommended.
I was just concerned about setting the applicant up for failure if 180 degrees isn't practical. That's all.
Right.
That really should be enough time, I think, Dean.
Okay, that's fine.
So I accept these changes as what's the word?
Friendly amendments.
Yeah. What is it?
Friendly amendments.
Friendly amendments. I accept these changes as friendly amendments. And make the motion. I think we already have a second. Do we have a second for the friendly amendment? Someone needs to second.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions? This motion carries. Let me, how do I get rid of my? How do I give it back to you?
Katie, I think you're muted.
I am muted, thank you. I think if you go to the top of the screen that you're sharing and wait for a
Stop
drop down.
sharing. There it is.
There you go. There you go.
Very
You
good.
found it.
Okay,
Wonderful.
very good. So at this point, I request a motion to close the hearing. Did someone move to close the hearing?
I move to close the hearing.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. So the hearing is now closed. I would like to make a couple of additional comments to staff about this. The chair requests that the county staff work in consultation with BMRC, VIMS, and if applicable, DCR, to assist this permit evaluating and selecting suitable shoreline stabilization techniques applicable for this property in accordance with the 2021 BMRC wetlands guidance. The chair also recognizes that the applicant does not have a history of violations. I request that the staff explain the civil charge determination process and the mitigating factors of 1, good faith, 2, degree of willfulness, history of noncompliance, and cooperation. I would note also within that the profession of ignorance is not considered a mitigating factor. The chair requests that the staff provide an update on this application within 60 days to ensure that the board are informed, and every 60 days thereafter. I would ask, does anyone else have a comment on the Green Drive issue prior to moving forward with the next agenda item?
This is Anita, Clyde, if I may.
Yes, of course.
Thank you. I just want to make the observation that for those of us who were not able to make a site visit for this, it puts us at a bit of a disadvantage in terms of the discussion. So the photos are helpful. The information is helpful, but site visits are helpful as well. So just want to flag that. Thank you.
Oh, Clyde, you're muted.
Sorry. Does anyone else have any other comments? Hearing none, I'm going to move to the next agenda item, the update on the proposed comprehensive plan and amendment and zoning ordinance revisions for living shorelines.
Okay.
Catherine, you have the floor.
Yes. I'm having a hard time sharing my screen. It doesn't want to let me share anything. So I think something happened. I'm sorry, just give me 1 second. Something happened when I let you share your screen. And I can't figure out how to move that back to me. Let's see. Oh, I don't know what to do here. I haven't seen this before. It's always something new.
In the lower part of your screen, do you have a share content button?
I do, but when I click on it, it only wants me to share like something from a file. And when, oh, wait, yes, I think I figured it out. Hold on. 1 more second. Yes, I figured it out. Give me 1 second. I will reshare here. Okay. Do you see the letters from the last discussion point? Are we seeing the PowerPoint?
Yes, I do.
Okay, wonderful,
Right.
great. Thank you. I'm glad that worked. Okay, So for the next item, which is to give you all another update on the comprehensive plan amendment and the proposed changes to the environment policy plan and the proposed revisions to chapter 116 of the county code. I just wanted to briefly, we're not going to go into details unless you all have questions, but there's really no new information here other than what I supplied to you in an email to every board member on July 30th. And I am requesting feedback by this Friday, the 13th, because I've got to keep moving forward on routing these pieces to and getting them towards finalization. These items have been reviewed by senior leadership in the department that I work in, which is the Department of Planning and Development. Let me move to the first item where you'll see, strike throughs of text that is recommended to be removed, and anything underlined is a proposed addition. There's a lot. Sorry, let me go back one. Sorry, I missed this. So this is, let me go back. I got ahead of myself. This is the one piece in the actual policy plan where we're recommending that we integrate the discussion of VIMS being the entity to go to essentially for guidance as it pertains to the Code of Virginia direction. And again, this was reviewed by VIMS and VMRC. So feedback from the group that Emily works with at VIMS. I've integrated their feedback. And then for Appendix 1 here, which is further detailed information for readers on the shoreline erosion measures. We're recommending quite a bit of updates, which I think I briefed you all on here, to really clean up some of the discussion of what I'll call general shoreline stabilization techniques that were referenced in the past. And the discussion here in the second paragraph is much more specific to living shoreline approaches and really discusses some of the documentation that the Code of Virginia has recommended wetlands boards and BMRC use. So that's that piece. The next slide is just a continuation, the next page of that Appendix 1. In this upper green box, again, some of these erosion rates have been refined and are now integrated into the documentation and the science that VIMS has put into their coastal, the CCRMP. So we don't really need to sparse out the different erosion rates because that's taken care of with the guidance that VIMS has created. And then just the piece here at the bottom where we're proposing that definition of a living shoreline. And that definition of the living shoreline is in a part of the Code of Virginia that cannot be changed. So we're not recommending at this point any edits whatsoever to the definition because we've been told that it needs to match the state code. And let's see here. Thought I saw someone put, we have a comment or something. Okay. And then, sorry, I see something in the chat. Let me see. I think that's from the property owners. Sorry, everyone. I just want to make sure I'm responsive to the property owner. And then, let's see here. Moving on to the last component of the living shoreline definition. Again, we want to integrate that into the glossary of the comprehensive plan. So that's the comprehensive plan piece. And then I sent you all the proposed changes to chapter 116, which again is called the Wetland Zoning Ordinance. Technically, it's part of the county code. And again, these additions here and underlines are straight from the Code of Virginia. And again, we have been advised by the MRC and that we cannot edit or change this particular information, that we need to copy it word for word. And then just a quick summary. I think I've shown you some of these dates and the upcoming milestones, but just to review, in July, I presented to the Environment Quality Advisory Council, or EQAC, and also the county's Planning Commission Environment Committee, the Planning Commission's Environmental Committee. So I've provided updates and presentations for those two entities. I will be presenting information on this plan amendment and changes to chapter 116 to the Northern Virginia building industry and their kind of sister, what I think is a sister organization of the Commercial Real Estate Development Association in September. And then I also have a few information sessions set up with Supervisor Stork and Supervisor Smith on this plan amendment. And obviously the edits to chapter 116. So that's where we are. Let me make sure I can see. Yeah, and Kim is unmuted if there's anything that she wants to say. I was just checking that. And if anyone else wants to talk through anything.
Yeah, it's Kim. I just copy everybody on my comments. They're not significant, I don't think. Minor word tweaking. Some of the things don't match from the definition of living shoreline to what's in the code recommendation as far as practicability. So there's a couple word smithing changes from, whatever is possible to whatever is practicable. To me, I think that flexibility, because sites are so different in certain areas that, you never know what's going to come up. I mean, we've had project sites that have got, sheer walls of, 20 feet high, and accessing some of those may be difficult, so it may not allow for certain elements of living shorelines to be implemented. So I was trying to make sure that we're not just looking at the code living shoreline for living shoreline. It needs to be practical in its space and placement and for constructability as well, and homeowners. So, I've done and I've been involved in other shoreline projects. They can get very, very expensive, and in some cases can exceed the price of a house. So, or the property you're trying to protect. So in my world and non-wetlands board world, to me, some things have to be economically feasible or practicable as well. So take them for what they are. I don't know, before anybody else has a chance to comment too, you can take a look at those. I just sent them to everybody. Open to discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I will certainly look through them. Obviously, I appreciate the feedback. I suppose we'll see if there's other feedback that's collected. I don't know if I need to go back. I mean, I will say this, the definition of a living shoreline like I said, in this blue box that comes straight from Virginia Code 28.2. So the piece of when practical, you know, are you kind of trying to recommend that we explain what that term may mean for Fairfax County in the comprehensive plan?
So it's more, so 116, I didn't have any problem with the changes in 116. It's more the other recommended changes. There's a few words that I think we need to add or revise. And I think if you just kind of, I don't know, I don't know if you can share the screen, but you can scroll over and kind of just look at them for discussion purposes. But I mean, we don't have to do that today. I sent it to everybody so the other folks can, you know, kind of chew on it for a while and get it back to you by the 13th.
So, Kim, if we're going to discuss your comments, they have to come through Catherine, or you need to present them tonight. So it sounds like the way to do this, and you could present all your comments tonight. You could ask Catherine to review your comments, and she can reply back to all of us. But you can't do Wetlands Board business outside of the hearing, outside of the meeting, talking to everybody. So you have to go through Catherine.
Well, and that was for, it was, yeah, and that's kind of what I did. It was a discussion point. She had sent them out for this meeting discussion. So I replied to that email. So it did go to Catherine.
Yes, but you replied to all. You have to wait for Catherine to come back.
Let me see if I can share her comments.
Yes, you can share her comments. There, you got them. So why don't you go share them, and then everyone can formally comment back to Catherine, not to Kim.
I'll send them out to everyone, but this is the information. Kim, I am hopefully just
and then if everybody could to follow the rules of the Sunshine Law, please reply back to Kim only, and she can.
Not to Catherine, not to me, to Catherine.
Right, to Catherine.
So there was this, she had a comment here in this policy C after the shorelines add this phrase, and as living shorelines are not practical under high energy, low fetch conditions, adding the statement is in keeping with FIMS and BMRC guidelines. So I may need to check with FIMS on that just to confirm too, but I think that comment's definitely worth pursuing.
Yes, you may want to consult with Pam Pelto on the difference between practical and practical. One is the term of anything, and the other is a legal term of art, as I understand.
Okay. And then Kim also mentioned how some living shoreline elements could be considered structures, perhaps artificial structural elements. That's, we can consider clarifying that. Again, adding that word practical. And then, a condition of shall. I think that was a comment that I received elsewhere within my department. So I think that since it's been cleaned up, but I appreciate that. And then also
Kim, do you think that these are issues that you think the board needs to consider, or just Catherine?
Well, I think the board should consider them, because if we're telling people that they, you have to do everything possible to put in a living shoreline, the reality of that, just as an engineering structure and from an engineering, point, could be crazy.
I agree. And to reinforce that comment, I think the better word is practicable. Any other board members want to comment on this?
Yes, this is Anita. Thank you. I'd like to look at these. I can see them on the screen, but to the more careful consideration, I think I hear what is being said and I agree at some level. On the other hand, we are not suffering from an overabundance of impractical living shorelines in this county. So I think we have to weigh the pros and cons of the messaging that language and some words might send. So I would like to be able to give this some more thought, and I will send comments back to Katie, as we are supposed to do. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Kim, anything else specific you'd like to discuss?
No, I think those are the only comments I had.
Do any other board members have comments on the updates? Hearing none, I'm going to skip over the set a date for a wetlands board meeting and mention I don't think people have had a chance to review the meeting minutes.
Yes.
So I'm going to remove that from the agenda. We will handle it next time after you all receive them and have a chance to review them. And so the final item would, well, second to the last item, would be to set the date for the next wetlands board meeting. Catherine, are you ready to propose a meeting date?
Well, I think obviously I have a deadline to coordinate with you all and provide you an update on the violation at 10625 Green Drive. I am happy to do that in a written form, or we can tentatively schedule a meeting that would meet that time frame, which would be, we would probably want to do that by the first week of October, obviously. So that's a thought and idea. And there are other topics that we can chat about as a board, and to keep you updated on. So we could target something like that. It's a little bit of your preference as a board. If you would like a written update and a presentation on this violation, I'm happy to do both. If you would prefer just a written update, I can do that. We can tentatively schedule something.
So just a quick poll of members. How many people would prefer a meeting?
I prefer both. I find both helpful, written and presentations.
I agree.
So Catherine, those comments, let's schedule something for the first week in October. Does anyone have any evenings, 4th, 5th, 6th? I cannot do the 7th myself. So are those 3 dates open for everyone?
Yes.
And any have a date they can't do the 4th, 5th, or 6th? So hearing none, I would tentatively set the call for the 4th, Monday night at 7 p.m. Unless we're back to in-person meetings by then. I'm not going to try to guess that at this stage.
Is that a holiday?
I don't.
I think it's the following week.
Say again?
I think
Is
it's
the 4th Columbus Day? Is it a federal holiday?
It's not showing on mine, but to completely avoid that altogether, how about Tuesday, the 5th?
That's fine.
Good.
Fine.
Sounds great.
Okay. Wetlands Board meeting, Tuesday, the 5th, 7 p.m.
Okay. Sounds good. I will be in touch as usual.
That concludes the regular agenda. Would anyone else like the floor for any other statements or discussion? Hearing none, thank you all. You did a good job tonight, got through it pretty swiftly. Thank you all for participating and getting through these interesting times. And I think we should all really thank Catherine for her fine work on getting all this done.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Father Katie.
Very good.
Have a good night.
Good night. Oh, one more thing. I'm sorry. Catherine, were you able to pick up who seconded each motion?
I am recording this video, this meeting, so we will make sure in the meeting minutes that we go back and double check who seconds these.
So to make this a little easier for Catherine, could I suggest that everybody who offered a second send her an email telling her that you're the one that seconded any particular motion? I know that can be really hard to do when we move through those really quickly. The votes were all the same, but please, if you seconded something, send it to her.
Great.
Here, a motion to adjourn.
I might adjourn.
A second, please.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Nope.
The motion passes. We are adjourned. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Clyde.
Very good.